race fans, my name is Taylor and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. Joining me today, you know him at this point, it's Adam Lucas here to help me break down all the excitement from Bristol. We also have a few small topics to talk about and updates and hot takes. Finally going to the race preview for Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend. So Adam, are you ready?
In the words of my good friend Joe Coletta, aka the Big Joe, let's get it.
All right, well, this was a super fun weekend in every series at Bristol. They did, honestly, one of the best weekends I think Bristol has had in a while. We'll talk about that, though, in a few. But right now, your results on the screen. Kevin Harvick came so close to winning this race. We'll talk about the issue at hand in a few moments. But Kevin Harvick finished in second, but Kyle Larson, of course, dominated the season, dominated the very end of the race, and won, leaving Harvick in second. Then we have Byron with a miraculous comeback in third. Same goes for teammate Bowman in fifth. We have right in between there, Blaney in fourth. Then to round out the rest of the top 10, we have Keselowski, Truex, Jones, Hamlin, and Matt Benedetto. Very good to see Eric Jones and Matt Benedetto in the top 10. I think that was a great day for their team. Like I said, though, Adam, we have an issue at hand here, right? This is the big discussion of topic for the weekend. We have Harvick versus Elliott. In case you don't know, near the end of the race, Harvick cut down one of Elliott's tires. They were racing really hard to get their spot in the playoffs. Harvick was still not secure on points, so he had to do everything he could. And then Elliott didn't like that, so he held up Harvick, giving Larson the lead, and there was some drama after the race on pit road and off pit road. So first question at hand was this a racing deal or is anyone in the wrong? Adam, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it was good to see that it was the old style Bristol and that drivers and tempers, they go hand in hand. So I definitely believe this was just a racing incident. Tension kind of boiled over afterward. It also boiled over on track. So, I definitely think it was a racing incident.
I agree with you, not to disagree, but I think it was a racing incident gone extreme. I mean, both drivers were racing for points, as I said. It got tense. And I do want to bring up this point here now. I do hate the argument, though there is some truth to it, that Chase Elliott can do no wrong. He's the golden boy. And of course, we saw this instance when he cut down one of Joey Logano's tires at a race in the recent past at a short track, I believe. And and everyone was like, well, Chase did nothing wrong. He was racing for points. And there's always an excuse. And I see that. I am a Chase Elliott fan, but I'm very critical of him too, I would say. And I do hate the fact that maybe we're not seeing the wrong and how Chase retaliated, I guess. But also I think Kevin Harvick too was a little not too happy about it. Kind of some retaliation on track with him as well, trying to get back the lead, shook Kyle Larson's car a little bit. I don't know how Kyle Larson saved it, but almost turned him trying to get the lead back. But Adam, I don't know if you agree with that statement with the Chase Elliott kind of getting off the hook for a lot of these instances, or what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I agree that there are some things that he has done in the past where it was almost like, oh, you can't touch him. He's untouchable. He can do no wrong. And obviously everyone makes mistakes, and on Saturday night he made a mistake racing against Harvick and it cost him the race. He didn't like how Harvick raced him, but that's racing. You can't cry about that. If you cry about stuff like that and you don't want to do that, you're no longer racing. You got to go for the gap. You got to go for those positions. Harvick knows that his racing clock, not just for making it to the next round of the playoffs, but his whole career in general, it's getting very thin. And the wins are becoming harder to get and to reach. So Harvick was going all out. The fire I saw in Harvick in that post-race scuffle, or not really a scuffle, but more so of a discussion with Chase, that fire, that reminded me of the old Kevin Harvick, the back of the late 2000s, mid 2000s, when anything it could be volatile with Harvick. If you saw Harvick coming toward you after a race, you would want a TV camera nearby because there was going to be some good stuff.
Now, I think that brings up a good question. One, I will say I love seeing Kevin Harvick's fire again because I feel like it's kind of been missing, and we saw him dominant last season. Haven't really seen that, but when he gets mad, it's scary and exciting to see. And I think I'm going to throw this question in there, just like a random question. Well, this has been on social media, and I don't know if you've seen it, but who would win in a fight? Do you think Chase Elliott would win, or do you think Kevin Harvick would win if that were to happen?
Harvick all day. Got my money on Happy Harvick.
I think people underestimate Harvick just because he's older, but like, did you see his face? There were some gifs of his face and like how mad he was and like him slamming his helmet like on the top of his car. He would win. Anyone who says Chase Elliott, like, I don't know what you're thinking, but like, respect. I respect your opinion.
I mean, let's put it this way. One of the quotes Harvick had in post race was, "I want to rip his freaking head off."
Yeah.
That's enough. That's my case right there. Chase was trying to be very like, oh, I'm going to defend my team. I'm going to defend myself. Harvick was going to go for him. So I'd take Harvick with that rage. The rage in Harvick's eyes would easily win in a fight.
And I will say what I love about Kevin Harvick, and you see the difference and similarities in these drivers as they are more experienced. Kevin Harvick obviously has more experience, but they handled it totally differently. One, it was like, forgive and forget. I'm going to be forgiven for it anyways. And one was like, I'm not going to forget this. So we also saw them go talk, on pit road, kind of shooed the cameras away, which I actually kind of like that. And then they went into Chase Elliott's hauler, which I thought was odd. We haven't really seen that before. Do you like how they handled the issue at hand, or did you want to see them fight it out? Did you think that would be good for them, or like, what's your thought?
Well, I kind of think back to the 2014 playoff race at Texas when Brad Keselowski and Jeff Gordon were getting into it on pit road, and who did the great shove to start the scuffle but Kevin Harvick? So I wanted to see more, but I think they both handled it professionally, and they actually went and had an open and honest discussion in the hauler. I mean, I hope they did. I think they did. I don't think we would have not known if we on Sunday morning if we woke up to a social media post by Chase Elliott or Hendrick Motorsports saying, "Oh, hey, Chase Elliott's got a fractured nose and he's got a cut above his eye because Harvick tried to rip his head off." No, I don't think they handled it like that. I believe they actually handled it like true racers. The heat of the moment got them on pit road. Cooler heads prevailed. They were able to get some type of understanding for now. Now here comes the fun part. Halloween weekend, Martinsville. There's only 8 guys vying for 4 positions. Let's just say hypothetically, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick fighting for that coveted final spot.
Forgiveness is out the window.
Things could get spooky very quickly.
Things could get spooky very quickly. I'm going to keep that in mind for that race. That might be the tagline or like the thumbnail for that race. I will say, yeah, if it comes down to those two and that there's one spot left in the playoffs, I mean, they're going after it. I will say I like how they handled it. Like I said, it was something like you didn't see often, like with drivers just calming down. And I think that also says something about their character. As mad as Kevin Harvick was, as I think upset as you could see, Chase Elliott was kind of pushing Kevin Harvick like his chest, like on pit road. They were able to set things aside for a second, cool down as much as they could, and talk about it, which you don't see drivers do a lot. It's usually like, let's throw some punches and I'm done, which part of me wanted to see because I thought it would just kind of like reset things. Like sometimes when you're angry, you scream in a pillow and you just kind of feel relieved. Maybe like that's what needed to happen. But I guess this goes to the question of, is the feud over? You talked about Martinsville, if it's for that final spot, but I guess let's look into the future, like the racing future of next weekend. Do you think if they're racing together, they're gonna wreck each other? What do you see going into next week?
Not necessarily. I mean, Harvick's he's a tough racer. He's one of the toughest. That's why he's still around at his rightful age. But no, if anyone's going to be the aggressor, it would be Chase Elliott. And I don't see Chase Elliott doing that at specifically this racetrack. So no, I would not assume to see any type of retaliation this weekend.
They are not drivers in my brain, unless Kevin Harvick maybe years ago, but that are actively seeking to retaliate each other. I might see that maybe from Kyle Busch today, but if they are smart, they will not retaliate against each other. They both made it into the next round. That's enough for right now. Obviously, Kevin Harvick is last in points going into the next round. But that being said, they have worked too hard to get to this point. Like being mad at each other and trying to wreck each other out the rest of the playoffs just to get back at each other discounts the work you've done, the work your team has done. So I think they're smart enough to just not do anything about it and move on as much as they can. That's what I'm going to say about that. So that was the race last weekend, and we got to go into our points because things are getting interesting. So we're going to go to our above field line crew points for our race winning picks and garage picks. Right now, Dom is in the lead. He took the lead from Zachary Bell, which I didn't think any of us could do. So congrats to Dom for now. I finally got out of the single digits. I am at 11 points with my race winning picks because we all honestly, after that, we were in our group chat texting each other. We didn't do too well. Adam, especially, you didn't do too well. I think you were last in points this week.
I tell you what, everything was going good for the first 450 laps, and then the old Harvick Elliott slide, boom, there goes my old winning pick right out the window.
Unless it's a road course, and this might help anyone who's listening to this with their race picks in the future, I strongly advise not to choose Chase Elliott. He seems to choke at the last minute, but when you are right, it pays off in a big way. Kurt Busch, I think Dom had a really tricky strategy with choosing Kurt Busch because he did not perform the way any of us thought we would, and he was my garage pick. Having Joey Logano as my race winning pick saved me a little bit, but it was disappointing to see Kurt kind of that way. But we'll talk about him in a second because we're going to driver points now. The points before Bristol show that Bowman, Reddick, Byron, and McDowell were below the cutoff line, and by some miracle, like I said earlier, Byron and Bowman were able to make it above the line into the next round by a thin margin, and Reddick, Almirola, Kurt Busch, and Michael McDowell were eliminated. Speaking of these drivers, and I'm sure we're both going to say Kurt Busch as a surprise that didn't make it in, so we can kind of just get that out of the way now, unless we want to dive into it a little bit. Are there any drivers that upset you that didn't make it into the next round? Are there any drivers that surprised you by making it in? And even if they did or didn't make it in, is there someone who had a pretty decent performance for the round of 16?
I guess I'm going to just keep talking about him this entire show. Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
I really feel bad for counting him out of making it to the round of 12. And Kevin, or anyone in his camp that is watching this or hearing this, I apologize. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm so sorry. I know you still got the fire in you. I saw it at Bristol. You still got the fight and you still got the bite. Let's keep getting it. But in all honesty, yes, Harvick definitely surprised me. I probably overlooked the tracks that we were racing at just a bit. They probably favored Harvick more so than perhaps the next round. The next round, it's more of survive and advance after Vegas. Vegas will kind of be the measuring stick to see who's going to be okay, and then all on anarchy for the next two races. So yeah, I really think Harvick, he surprised me. I think he surprised maybe some folks, sorta. But yeah, that's where I'm at with my stance.
Harvick is a good pick. I'm going to choose someone who didn't make it into the next round. I think Tyler Reddick, actually. We know he's a great racer. I've talked about him a lot this season and his success so far with his staff this season compared to last. He shocked me with how well he did. He was able to stay really close in points, and he was only a few points off from making it into the round of 12, which is not something I think we all expected. I know Adam and I think Zach had him going into the next round, actually, which I was like, guys, that's a little extreme. Like, be careful. But I also didn't have Christopher Bell going into the next round, and me being dumb didn't think he would do well. These tracks that we had are like Ford and Toyota, like their best tracks or like some of their good tracks. So wasn't thinking, but nevertheless, Tyler Reddick did very well. And then my shock factor, not in a bad way, I don't think, but I am surprised that Byron and Bowman both managed to make it into the round of 12. If it wasn't for Almirola having a mistake during the race, falling off the pace, going to pit road, I don't think it would have happened because he was the part that they were fighting. At one point, they were fighting each other for that single spot. But let's look at the points right now, actually, going into the next round. We have Larson obviously leading in points by 46 to the good. And then the first one under, because it goes Bowman and Byron are +2 and then +1. Then we have Logano -1, Keselowski -6, Bell -9, and Harvick -12. So it's not over for any of these drivers. These points are so close. If one driver that is above the line makes a mistake, they're probably done. I don't know, but Adam, I know our brackets look a little different. I'm going to show them on the screen for y'all in a second to see where we went wrong and what we actually got right. But do you have predictions right now as to who might make it into the next round?
Yeah. My prediction is total unfiltered chaos. I think we're going to see more surprises. I think everyone's brackets that they have given to above the yellow line are going to be thrown out the window.
Yeah.
It's going to be so messy after next week and at the Roval. What I can tell you, though, is safe bets going from Las Vegas into Talladega. I think we will see some shuffling with the Penske duo of Logano and Keselowski. Here's the big key takeaway. The performance of Kyle Busch has been slipping as of late. It's crunch time. I think Kyle Busch could be in the danger zone leaving Las Vegas. This is a good track for him. Toyota's been performing really good on the 1.5 miles. But when it comes to luck, some days you got it, some days you don't. He's not been having a lot of luck lately. So I would say Kyle Busch could be slipping into the danger zone of outside of the top 8.
See, I agree with you that his performance has slipped. However, I'm going to disagree with him slipping out of the top 8. I think he's a pretty decent road course racer. We've seen him contend with wins with Larson and Elliott. I think the Roval might save him, give him some grace. He's good at Las Vegas. Talladega's a wild card for everybody. We're not sure who's going to make it, who's not. I think that's kind of fun to throw that in the middle of the round. But like I said, Kyle Busch is a decent road course racer. He's pretty good. I think he's going to be able to maintain his spot. Now, I see one of the Hendrick Motorsports guys getting out this round. I'm pretty sure. In my bracket, I had it with Bowman. I think this is where his run's going to end in the playoffs. I think Bell might be a surprise that manages to stay. So we'll have to see. I do agree with you. There's going to be surprises, but yeah, let's look at our brackets. Actually, we only had like 1 to 3 mistakes each of us. So there's 16 drivers that had a chance to go into the round of 12. So how I calculated the points is for every driver you got wrong, whether they made it in the playoffs, you didn't have it, or whether they didn't make it in the playoffs and you had them in your bracket, it's minus a point. So based on that, Adam, unfortunately, I'm sorry, my friend, you're losing right now with 10 points, but you're only 1 point behind.
Sorry, Kevin, my bad.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's okay though. It's good because you're only 1 point behind. Don, Zach, and I all have 11 points, but Zach was the only one that managed to put Bell in his bracket. He had 2 other mistakes in there that got him down to 11 points, but not bad. Not bad. So that's how everything shakes out, the points, the above the yellow line crew. Let's go into our Bristol reactions. And I used to mention this all the time on the show, and then I cut this to save time. But I think Bristol was a race in particular we really have to dive more into because a lot happened. Jeff Gluck, he has a race poll. If you watch the show from the beginning, you'll be like, oh my gosh, flashback, Taylor. But yeah, we're going to mention this. He had an all-time high vote for the Bristol race. Overwhelmingly, 75.7% of those who voted said that the Bass Pro Shops night race was good and making it the best rated race out of all polls that he has done, which is 217 races. And now I think this leads us to a pretty interesting discussion where I think actually Adam and I will disagree a little bit, which I think will be pretty interesting. So first off, do we share the same sentiment that this was the best race we can remember in the last 217 races that Jeff Gluck has pulled? This would be back probably to 2016.
No,
okay.
It was not the best. It is in my top 15, but, trying to remember 217 races that he's done this poll with. I believe I have voted in 216 of these 217. I missed the first one because I didn't get the memo. Sorry.
Oh, wow. He's better than me, though.
Right? But it's definitely in my top 15 of good races in that poll. The best race, still in my mind, it's still fresh. It's seared to my brain, apparently. The 2018 inaugural Roval race. Yeah, that one right there. That's a good one. That was an interesting finish. It was an interesting setup. We really didn't know what we were getting into, and we got a heck of a show that day.
I have a soft spot in my heart for the Roval. I'm very excited to be going back there. And yeah, Adam and I talked about before the show because we were trying to figure out this question as to like, do we remember these races? And that was the one that we both basically mentioned right off the bat. That was one of my favorite races ever. I watched the clip of the ending of that race, like probably like every year. If we're gonna dwindle it down to frequency, probably like every 3 months, just because I just loved the finish of that race so much. And it was like playoffs, right? It was
Yes.
like Jimmy Johnson got out like of his playoff chance, and it was incredible. But I would say this was probably top 10 races that I can remember. And as you know, on a Buff Yellow line, my memory sucks. So that might not be saying anything, but it was great. It was a great weekend for NASCAR as a whole. All three series knocked it out of the park. And now this goes into our last question here. The Bristol rating all-time high, pretty much, from a fan perspective. Without dirt, we're getting into this discussion that you all just love to have on social media. So with this having a really good perception and the fans loving this, Adam, I'm going to let you kick this off. Do we ditch the dirt race in the future, or do we keep it?
Hashtag just say no to dirt, Bristol Motor Speedway. Let's take a little look back in the vault. Let's go to a quote.
Boy.
Let's take a quote that Richard Petty had said back in the springtime when we went to dirt Bristol. We spent years and years and years trying to become a professional sport, years and years to get away from the stigma. But dirt racing is not professional, so we're going backward. It would be like taking a professional football team and going back to play at a high school field. End quote. So, with what we saw this past Saturday night, and what we've seen in previous years with the spring edition of normal Bristol, we need to stick to normal Bristol. If we want to have a dirt track on the Cup Series schedule, let's go to an actual dirt track. That's another hot button topic that people were starting to buzz about on social media about, well, if we get rid of the dirt race at Bristol, can we just go to another NASCAR sanctioned track and put dirt on its surface? Me personally, no. I do not want to see any other track on our schedule have dirt on it. We did the dirt Bristol. It was okay. Well, if we really want to do a dirt track race, let's go to a professional dirt track race. We got Eldora. That's the best one, in my opinion. I love that track. Fantastic truck race. Knoxville, Iowa. That's a pretty good one. This year was a little interesting with the trucks, but that's not to say we can't have a phenomenal Cup race. And then there's a bunch of different ones, different venues across the country. Maybe go into a market that doesn't necessarily have a big Cup date or Cup race that's close to it. That would be maybe something to think of going into the next 10 years discussion for NASCAR's future. But as it goes for dirt at Bristol, it's a no-go. Stay away from the dirt.
So I'm like 50-50. I'm with you, I'm not. And here's why. So first I got to talk about the quote that you brought up, because I love this quote and I don't agree with it, actually. I'm obviously not a race car driver, so I can't really be like, you're wrong, Richard Petty, because, you know, I don't have that experience. But I saw the Bristol race as being some sort of ingenuity. I mean, they raced on the dirt back in the day, right? So it's not like we're going backwards, like this is a disgrace. Like, they're still racing on the dirt, and that's professional. Why is it any different for NASCAR? And I see we are the premier league of stock car racing. I understand that, but I think trying to get us in a different avenue is clever. So that's where I don't agree with Richard Petty that this is moving us backwards. This is not like taking a professional football team and going back on a high school field. I will say the performance that we had was like that, but the idea was not. They're two separate things. The performance that we got and the idea that was presented. That being said, I'm always one to try something before I totally just crap on it, or before I give my horrible opinions on it. The dirt race was one of those things where I was kind of not happy with NASCAR about how they handled it. The constant rule changing during the race, it was not professional. I feel like the win, even though Joey Logano won, and he actually did very well the whole day, was discounted by all those rule changes. I want to see this year what Bristol, the dirt race, has in store for us with them, what they learned from last year. Same goes with even Coda, talking about that, what they learned about that track. Same with the Indy road course, what they learned about that track. Going into next year with the next gen cars that are kind of made, they sit higher off the ground, so maybe it'll help with the dirt a little bit better. I'm not one to say get the dirt off the track just yet, but I'm also agreeing with Adam in the fact that if there is a chance we can go to a real dirt track, do it. Like the Bristol race this weekend was so good that it is almost a shame to put dirt all over that beautiful track. It's a track that I would love to go to in the future. My grandparents have been there before. I would love to go there since, RIP Kentucky. But I mean, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it, but I do want to see how the race goes next season before I make my final decision, because I think next season they should hopefully have a better idea of what it's going to look like. But yeah, that's our opinions on Bristol in the dirt race. We have your comments up here from the race. Actually, we have two pretty good comments. One is a GIF. The Sheldon with the breathing bag, like it was an intense race. It was a very intense race. I agree with this completely. I got a kick out of that. And then from Danny B talks, actually a big fan of Danny B, so thank you for your comment. He commented on the dirt itself on the track. He goes, fine with dirt, fine with no dirt. Dates are exactly where they should be, perfectly balanced. And he has the Thanos gift on there, perfectly balanced as all things should be. First off, also I appreciated that too. Also, this, Adam, I don't think we talked about this, but I want to bring this up, that the dirt race did what it was intended to do. It was intended to draw a crowd, bring more of an audience to the spring race, which is something that Bristol has missed this past few years. I mean, the numbers show we got more butts and seats than we did in previous years. So it did what it was intended to do. They just have to, in my opinion, clean it up a little bit. But those are your comments. Thank you so much. Also, thank you especially to Danny B Talks for giving your opinions on this race to Above the Yellow Line with hashtag Above the Yellow Line podcast. But now it's time to go to our thoughts on this race with rating this race above or below the yellow line. Adam, I did enough talking for now. What did you rate this race and why?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I gave it an 87 out of 100. So we are above the yellow line.
I already gave my opinions. I don't need to go more into it. 85% for me for this race, a little below Adam's percentage, but that's also me just liking kind of more evener numbers, just a little bit. So those were our race ratings from Bristol. Now it's time to go into a short segment of updates and hot takes for today. Not a lot of news to come out this week, but we got something about podcast that I want to talk about first before we go into a little bit of news about the Xfinity Series. Talking about Bob here, he said NASCAR is planning on having a condensed practice session for next season for the series. He says that NASCAR is leaning towards a short 20 to 30 minute practice times with no adjustments allowed under the cars, then straight to qualifying. But nothing is final yet. NASCAR is still tweaking with the ideas. So Adam, let's do the same thing. Let's think about the idea. What do we think about it? I'm just going to leave it as a broad question, so you can go wherever you want with it.
The initial thoughts are, hey, we finally got practice back. I think this is going to benefit, especially with this being the new car, and just overall performance of guys getting to the track and instead of not knowing what's going to happen or not knowing how the track's going to react, especially with a lot of stuff that has happened this previous season, most specifically the Indy road course race.
Oh gosh, yes.
The big old curbs, they don't like the cars. so being able to do a little bit of what we would call a little bit of R&D on the actual track itself, I think is going to be beneficial to teams. Although you won't be able to change a lot on the car from what I read from Mr. Pakras. Sorry, Bob. So I like it, especially going straight to qualifying. It's almost an interesting take and spin on a Formula One Grand Prix weekend, especially the Saturday portion where you have your free practice 3 right before qualifying. So I like the approach. I like that it's going to be condensed. There's no need to have 2 to 3 practice sessions because God knows practice is just practice. Words Allen Iverson, we talking about practice. We don't need much of it. We know what we're doing. Now we'll actually be able to see practice again. I missed watching practice on Fridays and Saturdays. Obviously it'll be more condensed, like I've already stated. So yeah, I like it. I like that it's coming back and it'll be beneficial.
What concerns me with these next gen cars is they're not saying that you can adjust under the cars between your practice and qualifying. I think that's a mistake. NASCAR needs to look, if this is legit which I mean, I trust Bob 1000%. But if this is what they're bringing into the final idea for practices, I think NASCAR really needs to take a step back and be like, okay, right, this is a new car. We need to allow them to adjust. And I will say I like going straight from practice to qualifying because that allows your cars to like not change overnight or like set, like, I don't know if there's some temperature messes with the cars. So it allows things to kind of stay stable. So when you go to practice and you go to qualifying the next day, you're like, what am I driving? So it leaves that out of the question, which is nice. I will say the practice sessions are a little short for my liking. I don't think that we should have, like Adam said, like 3 practice sessions. That's way too much. It almost gets redundant at that point. I loved, honestly, for my sake, and the only reason I'm for practice at this point, which is a hot take, I guess, opinion, is because it's a new car and these drivers need to know how these cars work. But I would say we don't need that much practice. So I like the condensed practices, maybe a little bit more just so it gives these teams time to figure out this car. But I'm also not a big fan of practices myself. So that's where I differ from you, Adam. It's a lot of time. And yeah.
It is a lot of time. The thing with practice, they are short sessions. I did not realize how short they're thinking about going to.
That's almost not doable with all those cars.
It's almost a wasted spot where you're gonna put your car in more danger of trying to benefit from getting on track time, while we've been able to see that on track time actually doesn't really help enhance a race entirely. We've had some pretty good racing this year with limited to no practice or qualifying. So
some of the best racing, I would say. A little messy, but it was still exciting to watch.
Yes, and like in all honesty, like, let's make it an hour. You get 1 hour, go out to the track, have that. Now here's where I can go ahead and put my what if marble into the equation.
Great show.
Yes, very good show. Highly recommend. I am not a fan of group qualifying. I like the random draw qualifying. I think it's beneficial to everyone because everyone gets a fair chance at making an attempt. It's not a let's play the clock game where there's a minute and a half left. Let's try to do a bum's rush of 35 to 39, 40 cars out onto the track at one time. It's not going to work. Not everyone's going to get a chance. I mean, we saw in it was 20 it was recent memory with group qualifying. It was at Auto Club Speedway. I believe Austin Dillon was the only driver to make an attempt at qualifying in the final round. Everybody was doing at the end of pit road. I don't like that. Everyone should get a shot at making a qualifying attempt. 1 lap, 2 lap, doesn't matter. I think one hot lap, see what you got.
I like that idea of doing the hot laps. And actually, I was going to disagree with you. I really was, and I really wanted to. And then you reminded me of the fiasco of literally Austin Dillon went, and everyone just kind of was like, okay, are you going to go? Because if you go first, you're not going to get a good time. That's just how it works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but the part of me that likes group qualifying is it gives you a more realistic situation of what your car is going to do in the face of others drafting, whatever it is it may be. Single car qualifying is just raw speed, which is great, but that doesn't tell you how your car is going to act with others and how fast you're going to be with other cars. So that's why I yet again, I'm in the gray area of like the benefits of both and the negatives of both. I do miss single car qualifying though. I mean, it's kind of cool to watch. I like it. I feel like it's more entertaining to watch, I think. And it's also, you can focus on one driver. That one driver gets their one shot, even smaller teams. And I do want to say this with qualifying though. I am so excited for it to be back because it gives those teams in the back a chance to move forward. They're not just constantly starting 37th or 38th every week. If someone, like we saw with Martin Truex Jr. With Nashville, he had a horrible qualifying. He started like 28th, somewhere in there. And that allowed someone from the back to move forward. I mean, it was just how good are you when you came into the track? It wasn't based on points. So I am excited for qualifying to be back.
And another thing too, that will benefit the teams towards the back, if we were to go for the single car qualifying, television exposure for their sponsors.
Yes.
That's huge, especially for small teams that don't have big name drivers, don't have big dollars coming in. It's going to be beneficial to them. So let's give them a shot.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I wasn't even thinking that way. But that is such a good point to mention. These teams need more exposure. I love when they talk to like the smaller teams, and it's almost like they say in theater, like there's no small part. I mean, there's really not. If you didn't have those other cars in the field, or even then you would have like maybe 15 cars in the field, and that's it. And they'll all be racing each other, and that's just boring. So and there is also no like smaller drivers or anything or untalented drivers. They are here for a reason. They deserve the exposure. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Speaking of some changes, some exposure for other teams and potentially talking about logos. Horrible segue. I know I'm trying to segue this in my brain. It is just not working. But we'll go to our final piece of news for updates and hot takes, talking about the Xfinity Series. If we have a lot of smaller teams in there, that's probably the better segue to go with. But smaller teams in the Xfinity Series trying to make a name for themselves. The series where it's all about making names has changed their logo. On your screen right now is the new logo for the Xfinity Series. We got some purple in there, and I wish I could find the GIF where if anyone's seen the movie Elf, Adam, I don't know if have you seen the movie Elf?
Of course.
Do you know? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but he was like, he asked the lady at the desk, "What's your favorite color?" And she's like, "Purple" or something like that. And he's like, "You look very purpley today." And I was like, "That's like," I wanted to share that GIF online, but I could not find it, like, to save my life. But so, anyways, I shared it. But I'll share my opinion first, and then I'll let Adam take it away because he actually has some better, I think, inside opinions on this and some fun facts to go with this change as well. But so some of my favorite paint schemes in NASCAR, I love red on cars, but I also really love purple on the cars. And so I'm excited to just see more purple in NASCAR in general with the Xfinity logo. And I think it looks really nice. It's something different for sure. The Xfinity company is making a change. Their logo's changing as well. So like, it makes sense. That's all I have to say about it. I just really like it. I think it's cool. Adam, I'll let you take it away.
Oh yeah, I love it. I think the purple seems to be the color of the 2020s.
I guess so.
Yeah, I feel very purpley. Alex Bowman has lots of purple on his car. Black Panther Wakanda, purple. It's taking over. But yeah, for the actual logo, it's the first change for Xfinity with their logo since everyone went to the rectangle. They're changing as a brand, as a company overall. And this little fun fact nugget I found out is that this will be one of the first times in a long time in the top 3 NASCAR National Series that red will not be a primary logo in one of the title sponsors.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. But yeah, other than that, I think it's very sporty. I think it goes along with keeping everything modern with the brand recognition. When I would think of the NASCAR Busch Series, I would think of the Busch logo with the little mountains. The Nationwide Series, it was white and blue, and then Xfinity was red. And now that Xfinity is moving towards a more purple, this will be a fine addition.
I think it makes it stand out. The series that is, for me, stands out. I think it has some of the best racing because these drivers really have something to race for. Not saying that the other series don't, but this is the drivers trying to make it to the biggest series in stock car racing. So I think it's awesome to have a logo that stands out. I'm excited to have that for next season. That is the updates and hot takes, though. But let's go to the South Point 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for a pre-race show. Starting with your track facts.
The track length is 1.5 miles. The race length is 267 laps or 400 miles long. Stages 1 and 2 are both 80 laps apiece, and the final stage is 87 laps long. Now it's time to line up the field, see who's on the pole for this weekend, and no surprise, it is Kyle Larson, and right beside him is Ryan Blaney making up row 1. Then rounding out the rest of the top 10 is Byron, Truex, Harvick, Hamlin, Bowman, Keselowski, Logano, Kyle Busch, the top 10, and the rest of our playoff drivers, Elliott in 11th and Christopher Bell in 12th. After we do that, to finish off this segment is lining up the odds. Now, the last driver to win at this track in dominant fashion is Kyle Larson in the spring, so it's going to be a little scary for the rest of the drivers in the field for him to be starting on the pole. Next up, the active driver with the most wins at this track is Brad Keselowski with 3 wins. And speaking of a Team Penske driver Joey Logano has the best average finish of any active driver at the track of 8.44, and right behind him is Ryan Blaney with an average finishing position of 9.2. The team with the most track wins is Roush Fenway Racing, and the manufacturer with the most wins is Ford.
So those were the track facts, driver stats. Now it's time to do our race winning picks. As always, Adam, I'll let you go first. Who was in the garage and why?
Yes, the good old garage. We're going to look towards someone who has had really good performances at mile and a halves over the past couple of years, especially with Toyota in recent memory. It's not a Hendrick driver, obviously, because I said Toyota, and that Toyota driver is Martin Truex Jr. He will be in my garage.
Interesting. That's a good pick. I considered that. I did. And then I thought about, well, there's a guy that's doing really well in the playoffs, and I don't think he's going to win yet, but I want him to at some point. So I decided to choose Kevin Harvick for my garage pick. He's I know it's a risk, but I'm also kind of behind in points. So I figured, why not take a risk? Choose somebody that maybe no one else will pick. Why not? Let's go for it. Race winning picks though. I see that for both of us, I don't think we chose risky picks.
No.
Yeah.
I'm Steph Curry with 0.5 seconds left on the clock, winning the championship at a buzzer beater with a 3-point shot. And that 3-point shot would be the driver that won at Vegas back in March. And the driver who won our most recent race at Bristol. I am going with a safe bet in Kyle Larson.
You think he's going to go back to back?
I think he goes back to back.
Okay. Confidence.
Hey, well, you know, it is Vegas. You're supposed to gamble in Vegas. I'm not a big gambler myself, so I'm going to go with the safe bet.
I will say too, just a reminder to those watching on my channel, we have a rule with Kyle Larson because we know he's going to do well every week, which is a sure bet on points. You are allowed to use him twice in the playoffs, and then if he's in the championship four, obviously you can use him then. But Adam, this is your one use for Kyle Larson. You have one left for the playoffs, so
bring it. I need a safe bet. This is it. I mean, hey, I'll use them now. I got another couple of races to think about. You know, there's always Phoenix going for the big win. I did have him going all the way, so
that's true.
Yeah,
you never know.
But this race, I feel definitely safe with going ahead and using one of my two allowed picks for Kyle Larson.
I did not. I questioned myself multiple times because I wanted to, but then I was like, well, save him for the road courses and this and this and this. So I decided to go with my boy, Brian Blaney. So I want to see him win a race. And I think the Fords are historically very good at this track. I have an all Ford lineup right now for the garage in race winning pick. I don't know. I have a hunch like I do on the channel all the time. It could be good, it could be bad. A lot of the times it's a jinx. If there is a podcast that I have not used the word jinx, you gotta let me know because I've used it in every podcast I've ever done. But Ryan Blaney is going to win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Up on the screen now is the rest of our picks for the Above the Yellow Line crew. We have Dom choosing Chase Elliott in the garage, Zachary Bell going with Ryan Blaney for his garage pick. And then for our race winning picks, we have Dom going with Harvick, and then we have Zach going with William Byron to win the race. That is gutsy. I think though, like I said, you gotta do some risky things if we want to get the points in our Above the Yellow Line crew brackets. So it could pay off. I don't know. But those are our race picks as always. Let me know yours in the comments below. And for now, that's all from us here at Above the Yellow Line. Thank you all so much for watching this episode. And make sure to tune in for the South Point 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's on Sunday this time. That's pretty nice, but it's late. It's at 7 p.m. at night on NBCSN. For those of you that have 6 p.m. wake-up times or have to be at work really early, I'm sorry. I'm one of those people. So that's going to not be great, but excited for some Sunday racing again. And as always, I have to thank you, Adam, for being back on the show again. At this point, Adam, I think you're just going to be called, like, your title's going to be co-host. You're no longer special guest. You're just a co-host. So I'm comfortable with that. I think that's great. But when you're not here on the show, where else can we find you?
You guys can find me on the old Twitter at alucas9166. Follow me for some fun racing stuff, a lot of football stuff as well. I'm a pretty cool dude to give a follow, so follow me.
I have some really good takes on Twitter, and first off, for me just signing off, I want to say I appreciate you all so much for your continued support of the channel as I am back in school. Of course, I haven't been on social media as much as I would like. haven't been interacting with you all as much as I would like. So I apologize for that, but for those who have stuck around, I greatly appreciate it as we're trying to grow the channel. Through the off season, we have some exciting projects coming for that as well. But I want to interact with you guys now more than ever. And so to keep interacting, follow my Twitter page for up-to-date NASCAR news and questions directed to you all. And send me your opinions and your thoughts on a race or on breaking news using the hashtag ATYL podcast. Also follow the Above the Yellow Line Instagram page to know when we post new episodes. That's a new thing that we have going on here, so make sure you check that out. Finally, Adam and I can both say check out the Podium Finish. We're also there. We do previews, driver interviews, and so much more. And make sure you follow them and their Twitter pages as well. Link in the description below. But before you do that, make sure to like and subscribe to this video. Share this with your friends and family. And thank you all so much for supporting Above the Yellow Line. And until next time, Adam and I will see you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.